carriers. I started chopping up other people's slings about 4 years ago now. It's about July 2012, which is a long time ago. And what it was I'd had my first child down in Hertfordshire and moved back up here, not here, I don't come from Scotland, back up to the North East to be with my family. And I didn't have a support network, so I reached out to the baby wearing community, as many people do, and obviously found my support group that way. And they were like, "Oh, you can sew. Like, can you just do this? Just this one, just this little bit." So I'm like, okay. But I was really nervous at the time about taking money for it because it was such a big risk. I was a supply teacher at the time, so I didn't really need the money that much, but I liked the idea that I could possibly branch out and do more things. So when you're a supply teacher, you go through huge chunks of time not actually having any work. So I was a supply teacher, I was signing on the dole, and then people were asking me to chop up slings, and I wasn't. Initially, I would do wrap chopping and ring sling conversion, and I would only take fruit as payment. At the time, the big Facebook group, which now has coming on for 30,000 members, Slings and Things for Sale or Trade, had about 3,000 members. It was very small, and the admin of that group prior to me used to take people's slings for free. So, like, people just used to send her their slings, and she'd do pull repairs and broken threads and things. So I was really the first person to say, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just making ring slings, I'm just chopping wraps, and I'm doing repairs, and I'm going to charge you for it. And at the time when I started, I charged £5 for a chopped wrap. And I'm sure some people thought that was scandalous because the other work-at-home mums were doing it for free as a side thing to the other conversions they were doing, which were obviously much more high value. At the time, a big mistake I made, which a lot of work-at-home mums make when they start out, is I thought, at price low, I'll be able to get loads of slings through. I'm just doing a really basic cut alteration, try and get as many through as possible, and that's how I'm going to make my money. And that was totally the wrong way to think about it. Any work-at-home mum who comes to me for advice, I always say, do not sell yourself short. Do not try and be a factory, because you can't. There are very efficient factories in England and Europe, but there are much more efficient factories in Southeast Asia and India, and there is absolutely no way you, one person at home, are going to change baby wearing and make affordable carriers for everybody. All you're going to do is run yourself into the ground, spend loads of your own money trying to make other people happy, and at the end of the day, the other big businesses are still going to do it better than you, so it's a total waste of time. Anybody who's thinking about going into working from home, you know, you have to give yourself the credibility and say, I am an individual offering a totally customized service. I'm doing something that's totally unique in my own home. I'm able to converse with my customers on a very one-to-one way through Facebook and Twitter. They know of me, they trust me. All those things add value. And you know, nice guys don't finish last in this industry. They might not finish first, but they'll always get to the finish line. The people who you've helped as you go along will drag you to the end, kicking and screaming. And at times, I've got so many people who are really keen to help me, and the trick is knowing how they can help me, and asking for help is really important. When you always be cooperative, always be friendly. If you are a new starter and you go to somebody and ask for help, and sometimes they're not very positive back to you, just ignore it, move on, ask somebody else. Because some people have a problem with sharing information because they think they're going to lose their edge in the market, which is absolutely ridiculous. Especially with all of these new shows popping up, all these new customers, you know, there's no reason any of us as work-at-home mums should ever feel threatened about helping each other out. We're not going to lose our foothold in the market as long as people trust us. Lots of people go into working from home thinking that they will see their kids more, they won't have to have a childminder, they won't have to send them to nursery, they'll keep their beautiful children close to them, and it doesn't work that way. you see your kids less than you work 12-hour days. Please try not to work 12-hour days, but you will end up doing it, because especially if you've got a small baby, you work an hour, then the baby needs to be fed, then you work half an hour, the baby needs to be changed, then you work half an hour and the baby's desperate. Cuddle me, mommy. I'm like, I really need to write this email. And it can be very stressful when you've spent the whole day trying to get to the post office, you've planned everything to the absolute most minute detail, and then just as you go to set your foot out the door, all three of your children have all pooed themselves. And you think, oh, and you just can't do anything about it, and you end up missing your post office run, or you've got a bunch of customers, they've been holding on and waiting for you, you've had loads of family things that you've had to deal with, and so you're about a week late posting the carriers anyway, and they're alright with me at the moment, they're still happy with me, and then you go to the bank and you realise that actually your post office bill is going to be £70 and you've only got £60 left. So who do I put at the back of the queue when they've all been waiting? It's really stressful, because it's very uncommon that you get a work-at-home mum who's got lots of experience in business prior to this. So you have to do a lot of learning on the go. Some work-at-home mums don't have a lot of experience in sewing before they do this, so they've got to figure out how they are going to manage to do the work which they feel they have to do, but learn how to do certain things on the sewing machine at the same time. So that's really tricky. Don't recommend anybody do that. But always ask for help, like I said before. But yeah, you'll always be that mum at the park on her phone. Use a lot of technology, and technology is your friend. There are things that you can get people to do for you. Get people to teach you how to take photos properly. If your photos are rubbish, you are not going to sell anything at all. Get people to show you how to take photos properly. Get people to show you how to use spreadsheets properly. Get people how to show you how to get people to recommend you an accountant program. There's loads of free cloud-based accountancy things on there. I use Zoho Invoice, which isn't free, it's £10 a month, but it just works so seamlessly. It works with PayPal, people trust it. Don't ever ask anybody for gifted payments on PayPal. I can't stress that enough. It just makes you look like a total idiot. You've got to build things like PayPal fees, bank fees, if you've got them, into your prices, and then think, okay, if somebody's going to do something particularly good, if they're going to buy 10 of an item, how much can I knock off for them? If they're going to pay by cash, can I knock off something for them? But things like asking for gifted payments on PayPal is just big no-no. And like I say, using an accountancy program, an invoicing software really helps, because you've got this email which is an intermediary between you and the customer. Lots of work-at-home mums don't like asking for money. We are conditioned as women to not expect new money for our hard work. We're expected to give it for free. What I did to help me get over that asking for money thing, obviously using an invoicing software, you've got an intermediary that's asking for the money for you. It's very professional looking and nice. One thing that I did to teach myself how to ask people for money in a confident way was I took some stock from other work-at-home businesses and I brought them around fairs like this. Where I live, there's a very strong, popular Comic-Con sort of culture. So I could get some cheap tables, £20 a day, and I'd come out with some of my slings, but nobody buy my slings, but I'd come out with some other people's stock as well. And I'd be just aware how easy it was asking for money for somebody else's effort. And actually, sometimes somebody gives you something and you go, you're selling it too cheap, I'm going to try and sell it for more than that because it's worth more. Lots of people look at slings and go, that baby carrying costs £100, that baby carrier costs £150. There must be a way to make money here. And I just want to say, yes, there obviously is money to be made because there's businesses out there that are successful, but the vast majority of the margins in the baby industry are very small. And customers have very high expectations, as they should. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. If you see this amazing opportunity that you think nobody's exploited and you rush towards it thinking he who dares wins, you're probably going to lose, because there's a reason that gap in the market exists. Just saying out there as an example, because it's a company that's no longer trading. There was a company a few years ago who said that they were going to bring out the first stretchy May-tie. There's a reason the stretchy May-tie doesn't exist. It's because stretchy fabric is really, really temperamental when you're called to sew it. When you're sewing the joins in the May-tie, unless you really know what you're doing, you're probably going to sew perforations from the fabric that are going to be really easy to rip later on. So make sure you take a step back and go, okay, why has nobody done this? And what is it about me that makes me best placed to exploit this weakness in the market? You would be really surprised how much the retailers buy the wraps for. There's very, very little margin in the wraps because they're all woven for the particular purpose of carrying babies. They're all such small quantities. A lot of the threads even have to be specifically dyed for that specific weaving of that specific wrap. So there's so much goes into it, there's very little margin to be made. One thing lots of people say to me, and one thing I thought I could do in the very early days was, it's just fabric. I can buy fabric from a fabric wholesaler and I can make a ring sling, I can make a May-tie, but actually no, you can't. In this country particularly, our sort of food chain of where the fabric's been across the world is so poorly maintained. You go in a general fabric shop, they usually can't tell you where the fabric comes from. That's a huge red flag, because places outside Europe do not have the same fabric safety requirements as Europe does. There are things like fabric that's produced in China might be treated with a anti-fungal chemical, so it can be stored, not particularly China, but I'm thinking about a random country that's not in Europe that might make slings. It's possible that some fabric is treated with anti-fungal chemicals, so it can be stored for longer in a warehouse. You don't want your baby eating anti-fungal chemicals. A lot of people in America buy upholstery fabric or tablecloth kind of fabric, and they might have found a really good supplier for that. I can't say because I've never looked at it myself, but when you're looking at furnishing fabric, you're talking about chemicals to do with fire retardant chemicals, so it's more safe in a house fire. So you have to know everything's coming from Europe, or if it's coming from outside Europe, you've got to have really strong control over what's been treated with, what's in the dyes. It's possible to have, especially darker colours, the navy blue, the black, can be dyed with dyes that contain heavy metals like lead. You obviously don't want any of that near your baby. And on top of that, that's even before you even consider whether it's any good to actually carry a baby with. So, is it strong enough to withstand the weight? Is it gonna, most people think you can use sling rings with wraps. If I'm going to use a sling ring with the fabric for a long time, is that not going to wear out that piece of fabric? What's going to happen when the fabric is washed and dried 100 times in a tumble dryer on low? Some threads might shift, some threads might disintegrate altogether. At the beginning, I said I used to make ring slings for fruit. Yeah, the ring slings I made for fruit are still out there. So I don't get to go, oh, I don't have any responsibility over that anymore. I made it for blackberries. No. Those slings have now been sold on. In some instances, it's been used as a selling point. One of the first ring slings he sweetheart made, which is terrifying. I'm confident, obviously, that they're fine. But you've got to remember that you might make things for a friend, but they value that item and they will sell it on. And the person they sell it on to isn't your friend. The person they sell it on to might not know anything about slings at all. So you've got to think about what you're doing to mitigate that risk. Full buckle baby carriers, and you're going to make 3 a week. That means by the end of the first month you're going to have 12 out there, and by the end of the second month you're going to have 24 out there. After 2 months, if you realise you've done something terribly wrong, and 2 months isn't an unreasonable training period for any job. After 2 months, if you realise you've done something wrong, are you going to be able to afford to buy back those 24 carriers? And even if you do, will they still have them? Will they know where they are? You've just got to be so careful. And sling libraries are your friend, even if you're not making slings, if you're making accessories of any kind. Most sling librarians have been around long enough. They can give you some great advice, and they're happy to test things out for you and give you some feedback. You really should use that. At the start, I was the only person chopping wraps and doing ring sling conversions, and then later on I started doing pairs as well. Lots of people think they have to do everything. I'm going to make ombus, I'm going to make pods, I'm going to make full buckles, I'm going to make half buckles, I'm going to make mai tais. I'm already up to 5 and I can think of more wraps, and you know. So let's say you've got 8 different carrier styles. Of those 8 different carrier styles, you're also going to do a baby, toddler and preschooler version. So, I'm not going to math, 8 times 3. Lots of different carrier variations. And then, are you going to have hoods? Are you going to have different kind of hoods? Are you going to test each hood style with each size of each style of carrier? It's ridiculous. There's no way one person working at home can make that many carriers to start with, and then test them out, and then get the feedback together, and then make adjustments to where they're designed. Start with one product and get people to recognise you're good at that one thing. One of the ladies I work with a lot is Carrie from Rock Solid Slings. Her business works because people have learned if you want a pod you go to Carrie, because that's all she did for a very long time. Even though all the other work at home mums do pods, she wasn't the first person to make a pod by any stretch of the imagination, but it became very, you want to go to Rock Solid Slings, you want to go to Rock Solid Slings, because people associated pods with Carrie. And that's one of the reasons I believe that I had good customer base, because people just associated me with ring slings. If you want to go to ring slings, you go to Geeky Sweetheart, Geeky Baby, Samantha, because you do the same thing over and over again. Firstly, it mitigates your risk. You're only focusing on one thing, so you don't have to do as much home testing and things. Secondly, it's really good for marketing. It just hits people in the back of the brain, they remember it. And you are going to learn a lot in your first year of trading, you know. Baby wearing, like every other sector of every other market, there is a rate at which only a certain percentage of businesses will make it past their first year. And you want to just give yourself a focus for that first year at least, where you go, this is what I'm focusing on, this is what I'm learning about, get really good at it, so people go, oh, if you want a so-and-so, you should talk to so-and-so, and then branch out. Because you're going to learn things in that first year that would inform which direction you want to go in. There's no legal requirements that you've got to sign up to when you're making slings and baby carriers, which is another reason why you have to come across as totally above reproach. Totally. If somebody says your sling is unsafe, you have to take that seriously and listen to them and talk to them, figure it out. Because you're going to learn one or two things. You're going to learn either, oh, my sling is unsafe, I need to change it, or you're going to learn how to reassure people who don't understand how your sling works properly. And those are both very, very valuable things. You have to take any kind of complaint seriously. Lots of work-home mums get very, understandably, you pour your heart and soul into this product. You pour your heart and soul into everything you're doing. And somebody comes across and gives you a complaint, and it's difficult, it feels personal, but you have to not take it personal, because you have to, complaints offer a really good safety mechanism, because like I say, you're going to learn either how to fix your product or how to educate people about your product better. Those are both really valuable things. I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's very, very small percentage of unhappy customers who will actually complain. Everybody else will go away quietly and tell their friends not to go to you quietly in closed groups on Facebook and in face-to-face in Sling mates and Sling libraries. And the word of mouth for any business is hugely valuable. People are allowed to talk about you in negative ways if they want to. That's totally freedom of speech. But you've got to, instead of shutting them down, asking group admins to delete threads about you, trying to brush it under the carpet, you need to find out why this complaint's come about and fix it. Because if you don't, it's going to happen again, and you've got an opportunity to make your product, your baby, your business better, and that's what you want at the end of the day. And even if you do just happen to have a very, very crazy neurotic customer who is picking fault with something that's absolutely, totally not wrong, unfortunately there's lots of crazy people in the world, so you're still going to have to find a way to anti-crazy your business. And give them, I mean, that's why some of the new Sling packaging says things like, you know, not suitable for swimming, because there are people out there who need on the packet of nuts for it to say contain nuts, unfortunately. And the more we get the general population using slings and baby carriers, we just can assume a lot less about our customers. When I first started making slings and baby carriers, I used to obviously double bag them. Yeah, you've got to put 2 plastic layers around the sling for the post, yeah. But my inside layer was an old carrier bag. And God knows how many people I turned off doing that, you know. And I used to, now I've got long-standing customers, I say, you know what, I made a sling for you back when I used to use carrier bags for packaging. I'm so glad that you're still here, because honestly, if I bought a sling from somebody and the inside was an Asda carrier bag, I probably wouldn't be very happy with that. It doesn't give a very good impression, does it? But I made that mistake for a long time and nobody said anything about it. Those were the main points that I really, if anybody talks to me about being a work-at-home mum, I always try and impress upon them. I do a big picture of you all. You can all hide if you don't like your face, but I think you're all gorgeous. Let's get you all in. There we go.